Joining me now for what this all means for the Republican Party is former Ohio Governor John Kasich. He's also an NBC News political analyst. Governor, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Kristen.
Well, I don't have to tell you what we witnessed was history yesterday. The first former president facing an indictment in a criminal case. What do you make of this moment, politically speaking, for the country and for the Republican Party?
Well, I think, Kristen, that people are, look, we have to look at this as an individual and take off our feelings about Donald Trump and look at it from a more kind of objective point of view. I mean, some people, whatever we can do to take him down is good. That's, I don't think, is appropriate. So I do know that Republicans defend him. Democrats are kind of cheering, not totally, but most of them are. And I don't like to think of it that way. I've been thinking about this for the last 24 hours. I'm not a lawyer, but my sense is the DA has really overreached. It appears to some degree like he's contorting himself to kind of nail Trump. And that's why people are worked up. I mean, you have people like Mitt Romney, Jeb Bush, many others. I'll put myself in that category, who wouldn't vote for Donald Trump for dog catcher, who now look at this and say, I don't think this is really very fair. So what I don't like is Trump's rhetoric that we live in a, kind of what it leads to is, well, we live in a third world country. The whole legal system is terrible. Now, I don't buy that. That's just, to me, it's irresponsible. But you're going to see a lot of people defend him. But just because they defend him doesn't mean they're going to vote for him. But look, maybe this prosecutor is going to come and have some evidence we don't know about. But at this point, it looks like his best case was misdemeanors. I mean, the FEC apparently looked at this. They passed. His predecessors passed. It's just not a good situation right now. But, you know, let's see where it goes.
Governor, you raised such an important point, which is that some of Mr. Trump's biggest critics, you included, Mitt Romney, who voted to impeach him twice, are questioning this indictment. And I guess given that, and including some of his rivals and potential rivals like Ron DeSantis and former Vice President Mike Pence, given that, how does it impact former President Trump's chances of winning the nomination?
Well, I think it's very early. And again, maybe the prosecutor is going to have some things he's going to bring out that will change the story. Every time we think we know the story, there's always a kind of a twist and a turn, and maybe we do not. Look, I think what we're saying here is, what some of us are saying is this perhaps an overreach? You know, I've been listening to everybody, and it's a lot of legalese, and, you know, I've not dug into it as a lawyer because I'm not an attorney. But my sense is that he's probably guilty at least of a misdemeanor. The fact that, well, they have this underlying thing, and that's going to turn into a felony, we've got to wait and see. But at this point, it doesn't look very clear. However, that doesn't mean that if he falsified things that he shouldn't be held accountable for that. But the way I understand it is that's fundamentally misdemeanor. And so, again, some of his base is going to be all fired up. They're going to think the legal system is the worst. That's baloney. On the other hand, those people who have not supported Trump, you know, you've got to play this fair. You can't just say, we'll do anything to get rid of this guy. That's not the American system. That's not the way it ought to work here in this country. So everybody should be careful about what they think and what they say about this.
Governor, I've been speaking to a lot of people who are thinking a lot about 2016 and the primaries in which then candidate Trump's opponents didn't directly confront him until it was too late. At what point do you think his opponents need to get off of attacking the indictment and start trying to draw these policy differences with him and other points that they want to make?
Should have been a month ago. It should have been a month, 2 months ago. I mean, people run around saying Donald Trump, his policies were great. I can't figure out what they're saying. He spent a ton of money. He made many of our allies who are critical in the war against Russia now in Ukraine, made so many of them angry, insulted them. He didn't have any answers for the growing debt. His immigration policy just built a wall without any way in which we can deal with immigration. So I think there is plenty of grounds on which to, and I will say to you, DeSantis, in one of his critiques, said that he doesn't bring people around to create chaos, that he's in a position where he tries to put people in his administration who understand his policies. I thought that was good criticism. Now, it's not the criticism that that you all love, where, you're just popping the guy. But I don't think you beat him by getting down in the mud. I think you beat him by talking about his competence. And Kristen, the other thing is, if the party doesn't realize that this MAGA approach doesn't work, just look at the recent elections.
You take me to my next
going
question.
Poorly for Republicans.
Okay, you take me to my next question. Let's talk about the elections last night, particularly in Wisconsin, where the conservative candidate lost that Supreme Court race, of course, in this critical swing state. What do you think the implications are, particularly when it comes to the issue of abortion, for example? What's the warning sign there for Republicans?
Well, you look
Governor?
to Kansas and you see what the people of Kansas said. I think most Americans here don't want just abortion all the way till the end. I think most of them want it to be done in a reasonably early period of time. That can, people can decide that. And I think that the party was smart about this, or people, the pro-life people, ought to look for some sort of a reasonable compromise on this issue. Because what's happening now is they're just going to put things on the ballot. Yeah. And I would prefer for them to come down with something that's reasonable, that will save the most amount of life, and not think you're going to get all of what you want. As to whether this can be worked out now, I don't know. But it's not just the abortion issue. There are many issues that Republicans have to address. The gun issue, the cost of prescription drugs, what we're going to do to close the gap between the rich and the poor. I mean, there's many, many issues. Immigration, as I mentioned, what we're going to do with the national debt. They're not talking on any of those. But abortion right now, of course, is very volatile. And most people don't want to see the extremes on this, on either side, I don't think.
Former Governor John Kasich, we covered a lot of ground. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.